It's kind of like the off-season Avengers, right?
And I thought it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan, but I didn't think it was bad or anything. FlyQuest could have asked Jensen to change his play style and go back to playing this aggressive style.
First off, I don't think I even really agree that with the whole thing of like Jensen being like a vegan mid laner. And
in 23 days, FlyQuest played Dignitas. If you had to just right now, way too early predictions, who would you pick?
I'm really, really happy that this is the split we're going to be bringing in best of threes because it does feel like
it's been really cool to see your evolution and it's been kind of inspirational. All right, I'm joined with Azael at a media day for summer split of 2024 LCS. Azael, I want to talk to you a little bit about expectations for the split. What are you looking forward to? Like, what storylines really jump to you next split?
I think there's a lot that are going to be really exciting. One of the big ones for me is kind of this revamped Dignitas, bringing in 4 new players. And it's kind of like the off-season Avengers, right? You have all these players who are really big names that didn't end up on teams that people are like, what the hell is going on? Licorice is not on a team. Speak is not on an MVP team. Speaker is obviously a former MVP. Licorice was the best top laner in the league coming out of summer last year, I thought. And Sven is someone that has been so successful throughout his career. So all of them coming back. Jensen going over to Dignitas after being with FlyQuest for a little bit. I think it's really, really exciting to see what this team is going to be able to accomplish because I think a lot of people are just happy to have those players back in the league. But there's a ton, honestly, that I'm really interested in because I think there's so many teams, towards the middle and upper end of the pack that could be really, really competitive. People are going to have huge expectations for Cloud9. They weren't really able to match up to what they wanted to accomplish in spring, where everyone thought they were going to win the championship. They didn't really even come close, and now they've upgraded. They've got Thanatos, who I've heard so many good things about. Like, this guy is an insane prospect. They brought back Reaper, which is really, really exciting. And then, of course, you have the development that we saw from Team Liquid at MSI. These guys have been kind of going up and to the right, it feels like. And especially with Jan and the APA performing so well internationally, I'm so excited to see what they're going to bring to the LCS. So really, there's a lot, I think, to be very excited about. And I'm really, really happy that this is the split we're going to be bringing in best of threes because it does feel like there's so many teams that will be competitive.
My next question was going to be best of threes versus best of one. Like, which side are you on, and why are best of three superior in every way, shape, and form?
I think there's like a little bit of pros and cons. So I think, as far as like what do I prefer casting? I prefer casting best of threes. Generally speaking, what I prefer watching, I prefer watching best of threes. I think that the pros prefer best of threes. I think that the hardcore, super engaged fans prefer best of threes. I think the major downside, and there's a couple, is that the more casual audiences, I think, are more interested in best of ones. I think it's harder to convince them to stick around for a longer series. And I also think it is a pretty big drawback to not have every team playing every day, right? So a lot of fans are a big fan of maybe 1 or 2 teams, and those are the teams they want to watch. So if you're a really big Cloud9 and TL fan, and those guys aren't playing that day, you're just not going to watch, right? And I think that is a concern for me, and it's also a concern even just as far as like what is that going to do to our overall viewership? Because even if like the really hardcore fans enjoy best of threes more and the pros are saying this is great, if the casual audience isn't watching, then that's going to hurt the league, right? We need to capture those fans as well. So I think that's kind of the push and pull for it. I'd also say, as far as just the atmosphere in the studio, it's harder to sell tickets again, if it is a day that only has half the teams playing compared to a day that has all the teams playing. Obviously, people filter in and out throughout the day, based on when their favorite team is playing and whatnot. But as far as I know, throughout spring we sold out most of the days. People don't come for every game; they come usually for their favorite couple games, then leave. But that is a pretty big thing too. If you have a team that's not like a really big draw playing on a day, like if Cloud9 isn't playing on a day, then you're probably going to have a harder time selling tickets. So I do think there are some drawbacks, but like overall, I'm very excited for best of three, and I hope that I'm wrong about viewership concerns and stuff like that, and that it just turns out to be kind of like an absolute success. Because especially with the possibilities of maybe going to like Fearless in the future, obviously NACL is going full Fearless draft now. I would love to see that in LCS, and it obviously doesn't really work in best of ones. So that'd be another reason I think best of three would be really cool.
All right, that was a pretty fair, judgment comparison of both. I did hear that the first week has already sold out for LCS, so that's cool.
Yeah.
You talked about Dignitas in the beginning, and I do want to kind of talk about them a little bit more, and it'll relate, I promise. But you've been an amazing color caster for a very long time, And then last year, you debuted your play-by-play casting during the dive cast, and I thought it was okay. I wasn't a huge fan, but I didn't think it was bad or anything. But this year, you've done more play-by-play casts, and I felt like you really improved on it, and I actually really enjoy your play-by-play now. Um, it's a different skill. It's still casting, but it's like very different skills. Jensen left FlyQuest and joined Dignitas. Jensen, back in 2016, 2017, especially during those times, he was very aggressive. He was getting solo kills. I think he had like the highest amount of kills in a game. He had the highest solo kills. He was playing like the best league that he's ever played in the era of Bjergsen, Doublelift, Huni, Rainover, like playing very well as well. So he can be this aggressive, like lane dominant style, but now he's playing this more vegan style. As someone who, different skills obviously, but, transitioning from one part of casting to a different part, do you think that FlyQuest could have asked Jensen to change his play style and go back to playing this aggressive style rather than getting a new mid laner that might be less vegan?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? First off, I don't think I even really agree that with the whole thing of like Jensen being like a vegan mid laner, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like he wasn't really fairly kind of represented in some of those interviews and so on by Inspired and even Whippo. I talked about that on the dive, and we even did a Let's Go to MSI thing that we kind of talked about the trash talk a little bit. But in general, I thought Jensen was actually playing really, really well for them, right? It's beyond just even stylistic things. Like he was third team All Pro. He was one of the best mid laners in the league. Even in their playoff run, pre-finals, he had some incredible games, like where they completely shut out Jodopian from getting like any kills whatsoever. He had some amazing Ari games, which is one of those champions that you do consider to be kind of like more aggressive, more proactive to really have that success on. So I thought Jensen was actually playing really, really well. Clearly, different people have very different ideas on how to play the game and what the correct way to play the game is. And I think that's one of the interesting things about League is that, you can take two people who are literally both world champions, both at absolute top of their field, and they can completely disagree on who wins a matchup, on what comp wins 5v5, on how you should play out a game. Should you take Dragon or should you go Herald? Should you lane swap or should you, try to stack the wave and dive bot? Like all these things can be disagreed upon. So I think that's one of the things that, really adds depth to the game and is kind of interesting. As far as, can Jensen play a different play style? I think he can play these aggressive champs, and I think that's something that FlyQuest could have considered. But, if they just fundamentally disagree on how to play the game, or, it's a bad atmosphere because players aren't getting along or because players are seeing it very differently, and one player feels like they're having to sacrifice too much or really compromise to be able to enable someone else's vision, then hey, maybe it is better for both parties to actually go a different way, right? Right. Like if Quad can come in and be more aligned with the way that Inspired sees the game, maybe they'll have more success, and maybe Jensen will have more success playing with a different jungler, playing with Spica, right? So I don't think that there's like necessarily a right or wrong, but I would hope that FlyQuest tried to kind of like mediate and tried to figure out a way to make things work between these players before just I guess like hitting the kind of eject button on the whole situation.
In 23 days, FlyQuest played Dignitas. If you had to just right now, way too early predictions, who would you pick? Who wins?
Ooh. It's hard. I mean, I think that Dignitas is going to want to win that so bad because even Spica got dropped by FlyQuest, and I saw that like he was saying online that like he found out from Twitter or something like that. So I'd heard that that was how he found out that he wasn't on FlyQuest anymore. So that obviously wouldn't be feeling very good. Jensen is really going to want to prove them wrong. So I think Dignitas is going to be probably more motivated than ever to take down FlyQuest, and I think that's why I'd probably have to give them the edge. If they were playing like right off the bat early on, I think I'd be less hot on Dignitas. But with them having some time to practice and really kind of gel as a team, I think Dignitas is going to be pretty solid.
Right. I think you think that Dignitas is actually going to start off slow and improve over time. I would have assumed the opposite.
For me, the reason is, I mean, well, four of the players are obviously like joining this new team. They're only keeping one person from before. That already, I think, is a lot of change that you're going to have to adapt to. Three of the players didn't even play last split professionally, and one of them, the last time they played, was actually playing a different role. Right, the last time Sven played professionally, he was playing support, so he hasn't actually played AD since 2021. I want to say. Spica took time off, Licorice took time off. I don't know how much Licorice was grinding in his time. When he wasn't playing, obviously Spica was streaming, so we kind of know that he was at least really active on the solo queue ladder, and Sven is really a grinder. So I think there's kind of like a lot of question marks as far as the individual form of some of these players. but also just everyone coming together. And when you have a team with four veterans who have been around for, really long time, who all have really strong opinions on how to play the game, you have to be able to play for a while and kind of find that middle ground and like how things are going to work. Because it's very rare that I think it just like all clicks on day one and everyone just agrees. So I think Dignitas is going to need some time to kind of get things going. But we'll have to see.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And
Of course.
it's been really cool seeing you. I really started enjoying your casts in 2017, the finals, the emotion you brought in front of, your home country and your family and friends. And it's been really cool to see your evolution, and it's been kind of inspirational. Yeah, it's surreal meeting you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And, I appreciate the comments about my play-by-play improving. I'm definitely going to be committing a lot of time to trying to make it better this split. So hopefully by the end of summer, I'll be a lot better than I was in spring as well.
I thought that was a really cool interview with Azael. There are a lot of other stuff that I could have asked him, but overall, I thought it went fine. It was cool. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Also, I've been trying to experiment with different like subtitles or not subtitles, like captions, and I'm not entirely sure what style I should be using. I'm not necessarily a fan of the style that I use now or the style that I was using later. I'm just like experimenting, and then whichever one kind of I feel is the best, I might end up using. But if you guys have any sort of opinion, let me know down in the comments. I do try to read. Well, I read all the comments and take them into account. So let me know. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. I have a bunch more interviews to come.